free will is an interesting thing, to say the least. Time isn't always kind, so let's see if my stats will be. Welcome to the May edition of Wrath of the Wrap-Up. I decided to do something a little bit different this time around. Instead of just sitting down in my chair and just ranting and raving and reviewing all the books and trying to remember them when I can't even remember what I had for dinner last week, I'm going to go throughout the month, whenever I finish a book, until I get to about the last week of the month, then I remember that stuff more clearly. But at the beginning of the month, starting from the beginning of the month, anytime I finish a book, I'm just going to go ahead and film the review. That way I can pop it in here and actually have my fresh, critical analysis thoughts. And I know I've said in the past, like, I'd rather wait because it shows what sticks with me matters, but it's a lot to record at once, so I'm just going to do it throughout the month. To start us off, let's go over some general stats. In May, according to Storygraph and my Goodreads, I read a total of 24 books. That is a total of 5,620 pages. And of those 24 books, 10 were on my physical TBR. Not too bad, not too shabby. So without further ado, let's get into those reviews. Murderbot number 4, Exit Strategy. Yes, that is the correct name. It is not even 10 in the morning, and I haven't finished my coffee, so give me some grace, or I will take it. I like this one much more than Rogue Protocol, but maybe it was because I slowed down the audiobook instead of 3 times speed, because I was doing other things and I wanted to make sure that I was actually able to just listen to it. I like that we actually get to see the fruits of what's been building actually start to happen. I did have to back it up sometimes and re-clarify to myself what was going on, who's the bad guy, where are all these branches coming from, but I like that we're now actually getting to see the action and things are happening and we're seeing the consequences of people's actions. It's also nice to see Murderbot back with the crew and see how much he has really grown. I can't say as a person, as a potential person, as a being. Let's put it that way. To see the lines that are getting blurry between what personhood means and what personhood or beinghood means to him. I love that we can see his character growth actively happening because of these experiences and these transformations, both physical, mental, and emotional, that are happening to him. It feels perfectly progressive to me. And also the memory thing, I was freaking out. That's all I'll say about it. I was freaking out for a good few minutes. But I love the action, I love the anticipation, and the whole fight scenes, the combat scenes, incredible. Vivid in my head. I like that nothing actually got particularly solved. However, things have now pivoted in a new direction with this action that, ooh, the depths are getting deeper. And so I'm very interested to see where the next book goes. Now that we're back with the crew, now that we are kind of finding the dirt and things are a little bit resolved, but I have a feeling that they are very much not. I don't think this is like the end of an arc or anything like that, but I'm very interested in it. See how much more put together this seems rather than like the end of the month. I say that and I'm going to jinx myself for the next book. I ended up finishing 2 books last night. I finished Star Wars: The New Jedi Order, and I kid you not, the Burger King Mandalorian commercial just came on as soon as I started talking about it. I need to go buy a lottery ticket. That's wild. I ended up reading Star Wars: New Jedi Order Book 1, Vector Prime. I ended up getting a lot of Star Wars books from my library sale way back when, and I did not realize what order they were in because I was just kind of getting some, and I was gonna like try and test one because I was doing a Nat reading vlog, which if you don't know, my good friend Nerdy Nat Reads is a big Star Wars nerd, and so of course for her vlog that I was doing for her birthday, I was gonna read a Star Wars book, especially because I got them from supporting my local library. What I did not realize is that all those books were Star Wars Legends books, and there is a whole difference between Star Wars canon and Star Wars Legacy, and Nat does not read the Legacy series. I'm a little confused, but I've got the spirit. I also found out that I had like books 2, 4, and 5 of like the New Jedi Order series. I did not have 1 and 3. So I read book 2 because I looked at it as like, hey, this is a test run for me. I'm not really certain that I'm going to continue on with this. This is just for the video. It's just to see if I enjoy it. You know, it's no big deal. I ended up really loving it, and I don't know who I am anymore. And so I was like, well, I have to go and get book 1. So this is book 1. I'm going to butcher the name of this alien race too. Zhang. the V aliens. So, this is following after the events of, like, the main Star Wars kind of canon, right? Like, the older movies, because this is, like, from the 90s. Han and Leia have kids, Luke and Mara are married, all that. There is a new threat to the galaxy in the form of these V aliens who are doing environmental warfare and just sort of trying to do intergalactic takeovers. And they have to fight against this new enemy. First, they have to figure out the enemy because they came from out of their galaxy, and they have to figure out what they're fighting against, what the strategies are, and there's all kinds of stuff just going on all over the place. But the main point is that they're trying to stop this takeover, right? Wherever it's happening. That's the easiest way I can explain it, because there are so many plot points in here with so many different characters and new introductions and stuff like that. But if you want to read about the main cast, the main characters that you know and love, along with their spawn, I would recommend it because it was fun and I enjoyed it, except for like a character death who I will not say who it is because that's a spoiler, whether it's major or minor. The character death, and I was like, oh, he's so for real. Because I knew this happened later in the series, because on the back of, like, book, like, whatever it was, I turned it when I was telling Nat about it, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize I was getting grief horror. But I didn't know it happened in book 1, and it just echoed to books 4 and 5. So anyway, I loved reading about them in book 1 as much as I did book 2, and it made a lot more sense, surprisingly. It was cool to see where this all started, and I love the world building around this new race of aliens. They're a race, right? Species, that's the word I'm looking for. I graduated from Georgetown. This species of aliens, I love the world building around them because they use the environment. They have ships, living spaceships built out of coral, and they have like these cloakers and like these starfish that are like their breathing tubes for like underwater and stuff. It is such cool conceptual technology and warfare that they're now having to figure out, like, oh, this is very much not Darth Vader. This is something worse. People that, like, a species that is competent and is an intimidating enemy that actually provides a challenge. Like, it wasn't just an easy win for them, and it was fun to watch them struggle because it made the triumph that much sweeter whenever they did triumph. But I just love the concept of these new characters, of this new world that we're being introduced to, and seeing how it affects the inner mechanisms of the galaxy that they think that they've built, the Empire, the New Republic that they think that they've built, and also the philosophical discussions between characters regarding the Jedi and the Force, and what are the Jedi's roles within the galaxy, and all this, like, internal change and character work. I thought it was fan-freaking-tastic. I loved it, and it was so easily bingeable to read. I read over 100 pages a night within, like, an hour easily. So, yeah, I will be continuing on. I'm gonna go back and skim book 2 to make sure I haven't lost anything, and then I'm gonna go on to book 3. I don't remember if I think I own 2, 4, and 5. I don't think I own 3. Oh, well, we'll find out. The other book is Morbidly Yours by Ivy Fairbanks, I think. This follows a girl named Lark who is from Texas. She's an animator from Texas. She ends up moving to Galway, Ireland, to escape grief. What she does not realize is that she ends up moving next door to a funeral home. She finds out when she gets a package mistakenly delivered to her. Turns out it's a package of body bags, and so when she goes next door to deliver it, she finds out what it is and what the place is next to her. The funeral home is a family funeral home run by this guy named Callum, and Lark and Callum end up hitting it off, like, as neighbors, and so they end up developing a friendship as they both try to navigate their own struggles, because Lark is navigating her own grief and this new role that she's been offered for an animation project in Ireland, which is why she was able to come to Ireland in the first place, as well as dealing with workplace hostility. And Callum's struggle is that he's about to lose his family's business because his grandfather put it in the will that if Callum was to inherit, if he was to keep the funeral home, he was going to have to get married by the time he's 35, I think, something like that. A certain age, like, he has to be married by this certain date within Callum's life to be able to keep the funeral home. And his dad is kind of breathing down his neck because his dad just wants to sell it and make money off of it and pressure it. And so Callum is really desperately seeking a marriage to save the funeral home. He's also very shy. He's very introverted, and I believe he's demisexual. Chey will correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that's mentioned quite a lot within the novel, so that's good representation as well. I know it represents various sexualities and gender spectrums, which is fantastic representation. as well as neurodivergence is great. And so Lark, who is very much an extrovert, is trying to help him along in this dating journey. She's trying to help him be a little bit braver, to open up. Meanwhile, Callum is also trying to help her, he doesn't know it, but heal some of those inner traumas. He can tell something's up, and she just needs a friend, you know? Overall, I really did like this story. I gave it a medium heat 4-star. I liked the pacing of the beginning, but I liked the content of the end better. I felt like even though the pacing of the beginning was better because it was kind of more drawn out, I still wanted more, because I realized that they're on a time deadline, and so their relationship has to move at a certain speed, right? Like, the development has to move at a certain speed. Also, when you are seeing someone every day, like your neighbor, and you're hanging out with them, and you're going to work with them every day because he drives her to work because she doesn't have a driver's license in Ireland, you get, your relationship does build quickly with them, and we can't see every single day within the narrative because the book would be 1,000,000 pages long. I get that, but I still wanted kind of more fleshed out moments, because we got some, which were great, like just them having outings, like him showing her around, or like them having movie nights, which is great, but I wanted more, because it felt like there was too much of a progression every time like we had an event like that, and I just wanted some where they weren't like building an attraction, where it was just like building in affection, but not like intimate affection, you know, of just like, oh, I had a really great time watching this movie night, like, and not just like a sentence mention, like make it a paragraph, you know, not just a sentence mention where like say, oh, he came over like every day this week and it was fun. Like, give me a paragraph a little bit, tell me about how like you had craft time and how like you learned about his family or something. Like, build that affection a little bit more without, you know, having to draw it out. And I felt like the content was a little bit more substantive towards the end, just because of the way that it was built, but then I wanted it more drawn out, because I was like, oh, this is the substantiveness that I wanted from the beginning, but now it's moving a little bit too fast, because we're getting close to the end. So each part had something that I wanted more of from either part. But it wasn't bad. I was just kind of like, hey, what does Jan say? Rewrite, burn, reread. To me, this would have a loving rewrite. But I did enjoy a lot about this book, especially the fact I love Maeve. Maeve was an amazing character, and I enjoyed all the characters in general. I enjoyed the setting, I enjoyed the story overall, the humor, sometimes the dialogue and the villains felt a little cartoonish, but it just felt like the villain that Lark has to deal with just felt a little bit cardboard cut out, like typical what you would read in this, where it's like a Hallmark kind of villain thing. But other times it would be really clever and great. And so I would recommend this book. I think it was fun. I think it was really, really good. Hinging on great. There's just a few things that I would change about it. But overall, I really did enjoy it. I could see the love and care that was... Come here! I could see the love and care that was put into it, and I would read more by this author. Alright, that's it. I'm gonna finish my coffee. Bye! Hi, I don't even really know if I need to make this video, but I'm going to anyway. So I know I started this wrap-up video being like, oh, I'm gonna update throughout the month whenever I finish a book. I kind of forgot about that after making the first clip, but I do like this method, and also in my defense, I really have not read that much this month, so like, yikes. What I have read, I'll update you on. So I've read a lot. I really have not read that much this month. I finished The Picture of Dorian Gray, which I'll talk a little bit about in like the end of this wrap up, because I don't have the book right here with me. But I did recently finish Black Butler Volume 9, and I finished The Boxer Volume 2. I read them both as part of my 24-hour readathon, which should be the video up prior to this one, or soon prior, or soon after. It's not going to be long distance. It'll be linked up in the cards above. And because of that, I'm not going to talk too long about them, because I also didn't talk too long about them in the video. Black Butler Volume 9, I really enjoyed. It was 5 out of 5 stars. I'm enjoying going through this series. And Volume 9 is really just kind of following this locked room mystery. CL gets asked by the Queen to host a German relative of hers, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle happens to be there. It's very early in his career before Sherlock takes off. And so they're hosting like this German banker, this German like noble or whoever in the Phantom Hive Manor, and then he's murdered. And so it's a locked room mystery, it's a locked room murder, and they're trying to figure out like what's going on, who's to blame, and they want to blame CL. Like all the guests blame CL, and so they lock him in a room with Sir Arthur, but then Sebastian winds up dead. And it's not CL. So, like, they're trying to figure out who it is. The volume literally ends with Sebastian being... So, there's something more at stake here. There's something going on. There's some big plan. I think Sebastian is going to be resurrected in, like, 3 days, because he gave plans 3 days in advance to all the staff. But I don't know if CL... I'm pretty sure CL knows. I'm pretty sure, because he grabbed something from Sebastian, so I don't know. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I love a good locked room mystery. I'm a big Sherlock Holmes girl, a big detective girl. I'm just a big locked room mystery gal, so I'm enjoying it. I'm liking this turn, even if it's like filler arc or whatever. I'm enjoying it. The Boxer Volume 2, I am not enjoying as much. I read the first volume a while back because I physically own it, and I have just been putting off reading it, mainly because I have so many other series to read. However, I picked it up because I have an EPUB of it. Both of these I read e-editions of, EPUB editions. And with the Boxer Volume 2, my main problem with it is that I just don't care. I just don't care enough. The first volume was great because we get the main character's backstory and, like, how he really comes into boxing, like, why he's had to defend himself, how this guy, like, picks him off the street to, like, say, hey, you want to come box, you want to change your life, prove it to me that you've got it in you to be able to do it. You know, and that was interesting, seeing him overcome this adversity and really kind of, like, make a place for himself. But now this volume is really just following the training of him and then his debut match, and we don't really get any stakes in it. It's really just kind of an overview of how he's brought into this training process, and then we time skip 2 years, and now it's about his first match, and we're like looking into the history of the person that he's debuting against, and then we get the match. And the way that I described it before is it feels like I'm watching an ESPN recap, like, after this person's career. Like, one of those things you used to see at, like, 5 a.m. on ESPN, like, 10 years ago, where it's, like, the story of Larry Bird, you know? And it's just, like, showing the highlights and giving, like, some context with, like, interviews in between. I don't care, because what is the stakes to drive me forward, to be interested, and, like, to feel nervous, to feel that tension to go on? Like, I don't feel that. I don't care about any of these characters, because you really haven't, like, made me care to see their future. Like, I care about it to be interested enough to finish the chapter, but after that I'm like, okay. And the one I just finished tonight is Say Nothing. This is also one that I finished in my 24-hour reading vlog, so I'll keep it pretty wrapped up tight because I don't want to repeat myself too much. Incredibly well done book. This is about the Troubles in Northern Ireland, specifically using this one case of this disappeared person during the Troubles to really build a story around all these key figures during this time and how they're all connected and how they all got into the situations that they were in, into the actions that they may or may not have done, and their involvement with the various movements during the Troubles and the repercussions after this time, and what the ripple effects of said actions or said involvements or, you know, said relationships from then to the present day. And it's super fascinating. I love reading, I mean, I'm a big history nerd anyway, but my history thesis in college was about protest music under Thatcher, and so it wasn't like, well, not obviously, it wasn't really centered in Ireland, but I barely dipped my toes into that history, just kind of gaining context for what I was centered in on, and it's something that I've been wanting to read about for a very long time and learn more about, because it's just something I'm woefully undereducated about, and this book did it fantastically. It was a narrative nonfiction, but it was impeccably well researched, and I really want a physical edition so I can dive deeper into it and really engage with the material and educate myself in further resources and really just take my time with it and annotate and learn. A book that makes me excited to learn about a subject again. Who knew? But one thing that really stuck out to me that I loved about this being narrative nonfiction is that it didn't really take liberties with describing people's actions and emotions in the moment. A lot of narrative nonfiction, what I have problems with, and I understand that it's narrative so it can take creative liberties, is it'll talk about how someone was emotionally feel like they felt remorse during this action because they were so sad and they turned and they said this, and it's like, what's the citation on that, homie? What's the footnote on that, homie? And I get it, like, some things it's not as big a deal, but some books, you know, they go a little far with it. This did not. And it did take some liberties here and there, but more often than not, when it did, it was based on some historical fact they had later. So if it's like, oh, they felt remorse in this and this, it's because 20 years later, they had an interview where they talked about they had remorse in that moment, you know, something. So I really respected the ethic behind this writing and the determination and the follow-through. Just the thoroughness of it. I really enjoyed it. The audiobook is how I listened to it. It's extremely well done, extremely accessible. I would definitely recommend it to you. It is long, but it is worthwhile. So, Beowulf. I also finished Beowulf. I loved Beowulf. I love Viking Scandi lit. I just love it so much. It's not as much as I don't love it as much as my boy Hrap in the Doorway. I don't love it as much as Hrap in the Doorway, but I do love Beowulf. Beowulf essentially just follows this saga where this ruler of this land him and his people are getting ganked by this monstrous being who is just out on a revenge mission for them and sneaks into his hall every night and ganks a few of them, and he can't figure out like how to, like, no one can face him down, no one can take him on, and so this neighboring like kingdom place sends their greatest warrior with a bunch of men, and he's like, I'll take him down. And so it's about that, and then how the monster's mom gets involved, and just winnings of glory and rage and memory and persistence. And it's a lot more in-depth and a lot more beautiful and lyrical than I'm making it out to be, but that is the absolute Cliff Notes version of what I can give you. I enjoyed it so much. I need to reread the last 15 pages because I was actively falling asleep while reading it. I know I got it, but I want to go back and reread the last 15 pages. I need to reread the sagas. It just made me want to reread the sagas. If you have ever been interested in that kind of literature and you're afraid it's not accessible, I promise you it is so much more accessible than what you think it is. I promise you. It's nothing like, hold on a second. It's nothing like Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. What is this? I don't understand what's happening half the time. What do you mean? And I shall get up at dawn. I will to the hunt away. When Gawain's agreement was sworn, he bowed as brave knights may, to comfort you with their company, till I compet. Like, talk to me about just ripping someone's arm out of their freaking socket, dude, and then leaving it up as a trophy, because that's what happens in Beowulf. Give me the Scandies, give me Hrap in his doorway. There is a lot to be said about how monstrosity is purveyed. Is that the word I'm looking for? Portrayed. There's a lot to say about how monstrosity is portrayed and how we can all become monsters. There's a little bit of monster inside of us, and monster is really in the perception of the beholder, but also monstrous action versus monstrous virtue and monstrous being. But you don't have to read it like that. You can just read it like some dude just absolutely going ham in the hall, buddy. Forget the green eggs, he's just going ham. So I really enjoyed that as well, but anyone could have predicted that, to be quite honest with you. Blue Exorcist Volume 11. I finished this last night, the night before. This is pretty much a filler volume that happens when our main cast is back at school, relaxing from the previous arc, which they need some rest from. And this arc, this little mini filler arc, really follows the time-honored tradition that happens in every single manga that you've ever read, the school festival. So while the classmates are gearing up to participate in their own classes' part in the festival, really the big event is this dance that's held the second day, where you can only get in, and all these famous bands are playing, you can only get in if you have a date. And some of our main cast, like Ren and Renzo, want to find a girl to go with because they want to go to this concert. And we run into a bit of conflict when Ren and Yukio, the brothers, want to ask out the same girl, their friend. Then there becomes this, like, back and forth of who likes her and who does she like, and is one of them gonna go together, or are they both, what's gonna happen there? And it's more cute than it is angsty, but it's also like, ow, middle school me, yow! But meanwhile, we're also still building in the background this vast underworld, this conspiracy, this plot that is building as the organizations sort of get information about what's happening around the world. We get a sort of peek into their inner mechanisms, into their inner workings, and also a little bit more development on Yukio's side as he's sort of dragged into these, as he's sort of drugged into these trenches. Also, a lot of his introspection, a lot of his internal conflict that is now coming to the surface. And I really enjoyed this. Like I said, it was a nice break. I liked getting to just kind of take a breath with the characters, see something that isn't that serious, but also provides a little bit of character development, a little bit of insight, while also moving in a deeper direction for certain characters, to let them kind of have, not necessarily a moment in the spotlight, but give them their own moment to breathe in a way that is more poignant and will come into play in later volumes. So I really enjoyed this one. To the Limit, The Untold Story of the Eagles by Mark Elliott. This is just a biography of the band, the Eagles. If you don't know the Eagles, do you listen to classic rock? And if you don't, then there's your answer. Have you heard of Hotel California? Let me introduce you. I grew up with the Eagles very close to my heart because they're one of my mom's favorite bands. And reading this, I told my mom it's kind of like when you find out that samurai were still around during the Civil War, where you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, but it didn't click for me until just this moment. That happened in here when I read that Hotel California, which I knew came out in the 70s. That Hotel California came out in the year my mom graduated high school. And I was like, no wonder you held this album and this band so close to your heart, because I cannot imagine witnessing Hotel California being birthed upon the world. You know what I mean? So that's just a small little funny thing. As far as biographies go, I truly enjoyed this. I loved getting to learn more about the individual Eagles and their careers, both before, during, and then after. The author did a great job at providing the social and the cultural context, as well as just the music business context surrounding this universe that they were in, and all the forces that sort of either just happened to align or were forced to align in order to get them to where they go, and the outcomes that happened. So all the people that had to work behind the scenes to really, push their albums forward, or the grunt work that it took to make the albums actually happen, and the stories behind the songs, and the nitty-gritty on the tours, and things where they went right and things where they went wrong. I just love all those nitty-gritty detail stuff. I think it was really well researched. I think it was very thorough, and it was easy to read. It was enjoyable, and I loved getting to learn more about this band that I thought I knew a lot about, but still had kind of a blank spot in my brain, so it was nice to kind of fill that out, Her soul for revenge. Zane is everything. Zane is everything to me. Harley LaRue lived in my brain to write this book. So this is the second book in the Souls trilogy. Basically, what happened in this book, or in this series, is that there is a town where there's this eldritch god living in the mines. And essentially, these three people were trapped in the mines way back when, and managed to escape by making a deal with this god that it would save their lives if they would sacrifice three of their relatives in the future, in order to bring the god back onto the earth to its full power. In the first book, we follow Raylin and Leon. Raylin is one of the relatives that they want to sacrifice towards the old god. And mainly it's the big prodigal family of the town, like the richest family of the town, who wants to head this cult and try to, bring the god out and take over the world and stuff like that. Typical monarchical villains and stuff like that. But they're cool. They're cool. Not like as in good, cool, but I mean like they're cool as in villains. Like they're cool villains. Leon is a demon that was forced into a pact with this family to do their bidding. And essentially the first book is what happens when the demon breaks out of that pact and ends up protecting one of the people that they're trying to sacrifice. And the story is really told from their point of view and how it all goes down. This book follows Zane and Juniper. Juniper was actually one of the first potential sacrifices, but she managed to escape somehow. She had grit and grime, and she managed to survive her way out and get out and run. So they killed her brother. And Zane is Leon's best demonic friend, just by the way. So Juniper comes back years later after they've, killed her brother, and she wants revenge. And so she ends up making a pact with Zane to get her revenge on this family before, they can kill again, and for hurting her brother. And essentially Zane is all about helping her embrace, that dark side, who she is and who she is without that revenge, who she is within it and who she is without it, and also seeking justice within that revenge and seeking who she really is inside, and if it defines her and what defines her and stuff like that. It's fantastic. I love it. I devour this author's writing so quickly, and I love demons. Y'all know I love a demon. Y'all know I love a demon. Zane said things to her in here that just healed me, and I relate to Juniper so hard. I know it's probably been said a million times before by a million other people. I am so much like Juniper. Juniper's so much like me. You're wrong. I'm just like Juniper. Sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. You're just wrong. It's me. It's always been me. No, but for real, like, the author lived in my walls. Like, I relate so hardcore to Juniper in ways that I cannot tell you, for many reasons, that I just was like, they're in the fucking walls. They're in the fucking walls. It baffled me. I was like, you literally took a magnifying glass into my life. And then writing Zane, who is the epitome of everything that I, like, love and want. Like, what do you mean? So yeah, Zane is, I fear he's the top. I fear he's the top. I absolutely love this. It's my top read of the year so far. Number 1 of the year so far. Now, you may notice there's a lot missing there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I doinked some of the clips. I don't know. It's in process. So I'm just going to speed run through the rest of them. Speed run. I'm going to run through the rest of them. And in no particular order. I'm also going to stand while holding my laptop in an effort to make myself like Sonic and gotta go fast. I'm also going to brush my bangs, because what the heck, dude? Maybe if I make myself halfway presentable, it would help. Belmore Bed and Breakfast. This was a read that I got from a Stuff Your Kindle day. The MC is a photographer and is looking for a place to do their mother's latest wedding photo shoot. And they run across this bed and breakfast in their town, or in a nearby town, that is essentially all like fall themed, like year round, and it's super picturesque and aesthetic. The proprietor, the manager guy, turns out he's a vampire. He's straight up vampire. And so when she checks in, he's very interested in her. And she thinks that he's gorgeous. She thinks that he's stunning. And they sort of begin a mutual relationship together. Just having fun. It's a short, sweet story. There's not much plot to it. It's just fun. I mean, there's plot, but it's more of just a fun, cute, quick little time. And I wouldn't be against seeing it turn into like an actual, like, full novel. That's the concept that I would read. Because clearly I did. Scythe happens. It is another Stuff Your Kindle read. Our story starts with our FMC failing 3 times to remove herself from this plane of existence. And Death himself, the big kahuna, shows up and he's like, God, you were so bad at this. And essentially he reveals that because she didn't die when she was supposed to, he now has to stay with her until she does die, because she's like an error. However, of the days that they spend together, they begin to fall together and like kind of fall into a relationship and fall into admiration. And the Death is breaking all the rules from her, and those rules breaking her. Even Death has to follow rules that then have consequences that they're either going to have to face together or fall out of together. I thought it was a pretty good, sweet, smaller story. However, I just wanted more out of it. Like, I would have loved to see this as like a full-fledged world, because I feel like we didn't get enough time with like these really cool like conceptual monsters and these repercussions and these consequences, like Thanatos and like all the rules of death and all these voids and these powers and stuff that like I wanted more time with and I wanted to develop. However, I also thought that the resolution was stupid, because why didn't he tell her sooner? There was something they do at the end. Like, they fight all these, like, ethereal creatures because he's breaking all the rules for her and stuff like that. And she's like, is there any way, like, you can't keep this up? How do we, like, stop this from happening? How can we do this and still be together? And he's like, well, there is one way. And she, like, immediately agrees to it. And I'm like, hey, buddy, why didn't you say that, like, 15 battles ago? Literally, like, you've known it the whole time. It's not something that he just figured out. It's not something that just crossed his mind. He is Death. He knows the rules. He knows the... And also, if he is Death, why does he have to adhere to the rules? Is everything like a binary? Like, I wanted it more developed, and I wanted more of it, but that resolution at the end, like, the timing of it made me mad. I'm like, what do you couldn't have put that order of operations first where it should have been? No, you couldn't, because then we wouldn't have had any conflict. If you could have put it, then you could have made even more interesting conflict coming off of that, because you did this consequence. Maybe there's consequences for you trying to fix it. Like, people are like, no, you don't get out of a loophole that easily. And then there's like a struggle for power, and there's all this. Like, that would have been infinitely like more satisfying. So, yeah. But overall, like, the concept and the humor and the spice and all that, really good. It just, I would put it lovingly, I would workshop it a bit. Seraph of the End Volume 2. This is really still a setup of the plot. So Seraph of the End is a manga that takes place in a world where there was this virus that came and like turned these kids into vampires all above the age, like this certain age and stuff, and now there's a war between like the people and the vampires and demons and stuff like that. The vampires, like the territory they take over, they used like the living humans as cattle, and some people escape and they become fighters with the Japanese Imperial Demon Army and stuff like that. And this second volume is following our protagonist as he continues to train with the army, trying to earn his keep, and really following them in the next step of their journey, him and his classmates, of proving that they are able to wield a very strong weapon, an OP weapon. Also following another character whom we had thought to be gone, and like, or at least like what happened to them and what happened in their circumstance. It was really well done. I love the humor in this. It's just refreshing. Like, it's not mind-blowing yet, however, it is only the second volume, and we're still doing a lot of setting up and world building and stuff like that, so giving it grace. There's not a lot of hand-holding, which is great. Overall, though, I thought this was a really well done volume. I wonder if they're getting a little bit too OP a little too early, but I guess we'll see. I'll have to wait till the next volume to see how it kind of really stacks up, or if we're just trying to speed things along. But I am enjoying getting further looks into the vampire lore and the vampire clans, and really the inner workings of these processes, along with the dips of humor in there. The humor is really good. So yeah, I'm excited to continue with the series. Kyrix, Bride to an Alien. Okay, another short stuff your Kindle read, and I do mean short. See, towards the end of the month, I had not completed my punishment of reading 7 of my own digital TBR, so I found the shortest reads that I could, and I was just cranking through them. Again, really good. That's the thing with these short ones, and I guess it's kind of the point, right? Like, it leaves you wanting more, and that way you can plow through them really quickly. They are fun short breaks. So Kyrix is the bastard son of alien nobility, and so he has been cast out. The older son, like, passed, and he is next in line for the throne. However, the king, like, legally, even as, like, a bastard son, however, the king is like, no, I'll destroy your mom and all that I'll destroy your mom for a second time. And so he's like, never come back, never come to this planet ever again. Like, go leave off in the military so that the younger son, the younger legitimate son, can take his place on the throne or whatever. And so he goes out with the military and all them, and essentially they are trying to make contact with Earth. Not for takeover or anything like that, just to establish contact. He finds himself in a cloaking device going into this chocolate store to interview and ask questions, to humans. However, his cloaking device fails in front of our FMC, and she freaks out, rightfully so, because all of a sudden there's like a purple and blue alien with long hair and all this kind of stuff standing there. Even though she faints and stuff, and he gets his cloak back on, they have a protocol where if anyone sees them out of their cloak, they have to take them up to the ship, and Men in Black, like their memory, basically. Because it's really no big deal, like, it's not supposed to happen, and they've never really done it before, but, like, they planned for this, right? So he takes her up to the ship, however, the Forget Me medication doesn't seem to have any effect on her whatsoever. And in a very short amount of time, they end up, like, admitting their attraction to each other and kind of devote themselves to each other and, like, have this magnetic pull. And so it's them fighting against the establishment for her right to continue to exist in their space and for him to assert his rights that have been taken from him. I like it. I would read a full novel of this over Ice Planet Barbarians, which I did not hate, but, like, I would read something of that length with this that is not just like steamy and smut and stuff like that. Like, I would read an actual like full space opera of that. Like, that's fascinating to me. I just love space princes, especially when they're jerks.
危ないぞ。
消えろ。二度と俺に話しかけるな。
I didn't even think about that I was wearing a Vegeta shirt. But the concept of the characters in the world, stuff like that, it was really great, and I would say give it a read, like, check it out. And I will be trying to check out the rest of the series, because I would like to follow along with them. Next, Rogue Aliens Escape. Again, this is, say with me, a short stuff your Kindle read. Our FMC is a human who years ago was abducted and taken to this alien planet and essentially sold into servitude? It's not necessarily slavery because she has a lot of free will generally, but she also can't leave the planet. So I say like indentured servitude of a type. And she is like a security guard She's secured. One day she hopes to, like, make her escape and stuff like that, but generally she has, like, enough freedom and enough living that she, like, can continue to live, but she's not happy there. Well, one day her world changes when an escaped alien convict from the jail breaks in and wants to use the teleporter. And he kind of takes her hostage because she's like, oh, well, I don't know how to change the coordinates. Like, the coordinates are just, like, they are what they are. And he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna escape this. And she's like, well, I want to leave too. And so they kind of just run off together, and it's them trying to make their escape, trying to defy, you know, all these rules and regulations, and breaking their own freedom and mending their hearts at the same time. That was so bad, Chey. Again, cool concept. Cool world. I would read a longer story. I don't know about a full novel, but I'd read a longer story of it because that's a fascinating, like, world that you set up. And these were all bingeably readable. Like, I read these, like, 4 of these in a night, and not just because I was speed reading. Like, they essentially do go by that quickly. And I think that they are well written. It's just, I think it's the length that doesn't work for me. That's what she said. And they are good, though. Like, the ones that I've said are good. And this one was good, too. Like, I love the concept of this world that I'm curious to see if it's built out later in the series, because all these I haven't entered them into the series tracker, spoiler alert, but that's only because I'm not sure I want to commit yet. Like, I may try the next one and see where it goes, but unless I'm not gonna usually I don't enter a series into the series tracker unless I'm pretty fairly sure I'm gonna commit to it. You know, and I can always change my mind, but you'll notice that a lot. If I read some of these that are in series, you're like, where are they in the series tracker? I'm not sure I'm going to commit to it yet, so it doesn't feel fair to count it against me when I'm not sure, you know? And yes, I have series on here that I have not yet read, but if I bought it, then I'm pretty fairly sure I'm going to try the series, right? Or, you know, various other reasons. I don't know why I'm explaining myself to you. We don't have time for this. Falcon, the Men of Kingsley Bear Ridge, or whatever it is. I only wrote down Falcon because I was half asleep last night when I was listing out the ones that I didn't review in a video. The main plot of this is our female main lead is set to marry in a loveless marriage to this guy that her family wants her to marry because it's a family kind of arranged marriage. They chose each other, but it's really for the good of the families, like money and power, because her family's really influential and all that stuff. Well, she was, like, content to be happy-ish, even if she wasn't, like, in love with him. She was like, oh, I can make this do. Until she went up to his door before the wedding and found out that he was cheating. So she does the sensible thing and completely runs away. That she's been wanting to run anyway from her family and these responsibilities and obligations. And so she's like, now's the time to go. Like, this is it. Like, I gotta get the hell out of here. And so she bolts in her wedding dress and everything. Our boy Falcon runs a hiking camping group with his brothers, like this adventure thing that takes people up, you know, on trails and like teaches them how to hike and camp safely, like guided tours, basically guided tourist hiking. He finds her hiding behind a stack of logs, which he gets, like kayaks, canoes, that he gets like really unnecessarily angry about at first. Not like aggressive, but he's like, what are you doing hiding back there? Like, brother, it's kayaks, calm down. Like, does she look like she's stealing one in a wedding dress? Like, let's be for real. And essentially she sort of recruits him to just like help her escape for like a day or so. She just goes off into the woods with a strange man. Woods she does not know. Survival instinct is 0. I can believe she's from a sheltered rich family because survival instinct is below deck, okay? But I like it well enough, and essentially, you know the story. They end up falling for each other, and then when they come back down the hill, they make a declaration, you know, that they're in love, and she's gonna do what she wants and defy her family and all that kind of stuff. It was fine. I say this with love and respect, and this is totally my bad. This was not for me. It was fine, and I'm glad that I read it. Well, I enjoyed reading it. I did. It was a nice, sweet story. I liked the characters. I liked the setup of the world. It was fun, quick read through. It was a nice, happy little jaunt. Steamy at some points, but interesting in others, enough for a quick read between dinners and stuff like that. It was a great time. The author is talented. You feel me building up to something, so let me say it. It is insta-love. And if you've ever been on this channel, you know how Chey feels about insta-love. I don't like it. I just don't believe it. I have friends who literally are getting married because they saw each other love first sight. I'm just like, fake news. Except for them. They are the exception. You are the only Janception. And I didn't realize that that's what it was. Chey should have used critical thinking and went to the author's profile because it says that she literally, like, specializes in writing insta-love. So that's my bad. I'm not going to hold that against the book, because that's a my bad, and I did get it for free, and so for the price that I paid for it, I did enjoy it, and I'm glad I got to try this author's work, because at the very least, I have an author to recommend to my friends who are, you know, into that. So I can say that positively. Look at everything with a positive twist. Small Town Charisma, Lexi Timms. Lexi and I have quite the storied past, if you've been on this channel. Lexi wrote Royally F***ed, which I hated with a passion, and I hated the MC with a passion. I wanted to guillotine him, and I wanted to punch him back into looking like a Habsburg, and then guillotine him again. No, I wanted to do it when he was alive. I wanted him to live with that pain. I hated him so much. Lexi has sort of redeemed herself with this. Small Town Charisma follows these two main characters in this small town. We follow our doctor, whose name I do not remember. As I said, I don't remember Jack. He is not from the small town. He is from New York. However, he is filling in as an interim doctor for the town until they get a full-time doctor to replace him. And so he knows the residents. He loves them. You know, he really, like, loves the town, but he's not staying there permanently. And he's taking care of one of his regular patients, Celeste. See, I remember the mom's name. And she fell down the stairs and ended up busting herself up pretty badly. So badly, she's going to need, like, a caretaker while she recovers. And she's like, oh, well, the only person I can call is my daughter, who jet-setted out from town, like, as soon as she turned 18 and could get a job. And now she's jet-setting all over the world with her job and stuff like that. Calls her to come home, take care of her, and essentially the doctor and the daughter have to kind of work together to make the house safer, because he's like, hey, you know, with love and light, if you're not going to be around for your mom, and not judgmentally, he's like, hey, if you're not going to be around for your mom, we should make the house safer. Like, if she doesn't want to, like, leave her house or, you know, whatever, like, there's a lot of improvements we should do to the house to help her live more independently, more safely independently, because she's only going to get more frail, you know, as she gets older. And so it's them working together to kind of write this, and they start feeling attraction and kind of falling for each other along the way. I really like this. Was such a big improvement over Royally Effed. It was so much of a bigger improvement that I would actually consider reading the second one, because I want to see where it goes. There's some drama going on that kind of broke them apart at the end, because they didn't get together quite yet. They were, like, at the stage where it's like, ooh, are we going to a date? Or, you know, like, I'm attracted to her, I'm attracted to him, and, like, you know, I wish they'd ask me out and stuff like that. However, something has happened which has, like, caused a rift with them, and that is where we left off, which I think is a kind of a dumb rift. Essentially, she's been keeping this secret the whole time. He's sensed that she's left the town for more than just wanting to get out, because she seems to love the town. And he's like, look, I know you have your career and your job, but I feel like there's another reason she ran. And he's not pushing, he's not prying about it. However, it's very clear, like, they go up in the attic, and he finds some family photos that has someone in the picture with her and her mom and her dad that she has not talked about. And this idiot is like, well, why don't you want to display these pictures? And she's clearly visibly shaken, and she's like, put those pictures away. They're up here in the attic for a reason. And the idiot can't figure out it's because someone, like, died, and she left because of grief. Until the end. That is if that's the biggest gripe I have with a Lexi Timms book, though, you know she's doing good. You know she's doing good. The characters were interesting. I like them. I like the setting. I like the relationship between them. I felt like it was building up at a nice pace. Not overindulgent. It was not, like, fluttery fairy. It was really nice. So I would consider reading the second one to see what happens, Lexi, but don't get cocky. Work me, baby, one more time. This is the second in a series, if you can believe it. And they all have titles like this, which are fan-freaking-tastic. This follows Riley and Gunnar. Her name is Riley, right? I'm pretty sure her name is Riley. And Gunnar, two people in this in this town, this world where monsters live among regular humans. And they've had a crush on each other for a while, because he's a blacksmith and she bakes, cooks, and she commissions skewers from him a lot. And they're kind of like business neighbors and stuff like that. And so they have a relationship. They have an established relationship, but unspoken feelings. And then Riley's, that's her name's, grandmother's having a birthday and she needs a date. So she asked him to go, because she's like, oh, I want to admit it to him, but I'm scared. And so, like, let's just go have fun at this party. It'll be a non-pressure kind of date, you know, situation to see how it goes. And what she doesn't know is that he also has feelings for her, and over the course of the birthday party and doing like fake dating, fake relationship, because she has to bring a date. So it's fake dating, close proximity, all that kind of stuff. They start to reveal their feelings for each other and acting on them. Overall, fun, short read. I like the pacing of the relationship of the reveal. I thought that they were fun to follow. I would have liked it if it was a little bit longer so that we could actually see the development of the feelings, because we get told, right? Like, we get told that, like, oh, they've had these feelings for each other and, you know, the crush for a while, but I would have liked to seen, like, an interaction or two where that was kind of showcased. Again, showing, not just telling. And more things like that. Because 90% of this novel, not even 96% of this book takes place at the birthday party. Because it takes place over the course of a few days. It's more like a celebration. But besides that, besides just some showing and not telling issues, I thought it was a fun, quick little jaunt, like, monster romance with lovable characters in a lovable town. My other biggest complaint is the grandmother was weird. She was weird. She was a sexual health and wellness counselor, and she's old, so that means she is way too involved in her relatives' intimate lives, and so she is constantly pushing these two to, like, do it and give her grandbabies. Do it and give her grandbabies. And it's just weird. It's just creepy. But it is true to life that relatives do be like that, you know? But she's very, like, positive about it. But the pressure and the intrusive, it was just weird. It was icky. And it's probably meant to be that way, but it's also kind of celebrated of, like, oh, quirky grandma. And it's like, ew. You know, ew. But overall, the story was good. It's just that character was icky to me. Dragon Ball 3, the original Dragon Ball, Volume 3. This is following Thumbprint Head and Goku training under their master, building up training to prep for the tournament that's coming up. And essentially, that's pretty much it. And then them going to the tournament and competing in said tournament. And I won't tell you the outcome, because that would be a spoiler. Even though everyone and their mom has probably seen Dragon Ball by now. I love this series so far. It is funny, it is easy to read, and it's just goofy. It's so goofy. I like the subtle threads of plot that are, like, weaving in. That some are callbacks and some you can tell are being called forward. However, it's under this sheen of kind of goofy silliness, but underneath it's, like, pain. Maybe not pain, but, you know, there's more going on in the future. Like, it feels like it's gonna get like that Mr. Incredible meme where it gets progressively, like, darker, at least in some aspects. But right now, it's like, oh, one of the guys in the tournament, his thing is that he just stinks. He's stinky! Like, and one dude wins and, like, farts on him, you know? Like, but they are fun to read. They're really quick. They're classic. They make me long for early 90s manga and anime and stuff like that I grew up on. We Used to Live Here. This was the first book that I finished in May, actually, so I'm shocked I don't have it on video. But what a book. This couple, do I really have to tell you what it's about? You probably know what this book is about. This couple bought this house and they're renovating it, and one of the characters is home alone one day when this family rolls up out of nowhere, seemingly out of the woods, and it's like, and the dad, the father figure, at least the male figure, is like, hey, I used to live here. Can I look around the house and just show my kids and family the house? And our main character doesn't have a spine at the beginning of this. So she's like, oh, sure. Even though, like, she's getting all kinds of red flags and stuff, she's like, sure, come in and look around. Girl. And things go downhill because the house isn't quite right, and neither is this family. And it just spirals from there. It is not the craziest thing I've ever read. Part of it may be on me because I read this really quickly, so maybe I just needed to take some more time with it. But it was interesting. And the comparisons to Last Cabin in the Woods, that's a pretty good comparison. I thought it was creepy. I liked the aspect leaning towards nature horror, as well as, like, psychological terror and questioning things, and the never quite sure about reality aspect, and the horror in general. I thought it was a really good, well done piece. And I've heard that the audio is fantastic, so maybe one day I'll, like, try and re-listen to it on audio and see how it strikes me then. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. I wasn't crazy in love with it, but I thought it was pretty good. Even if one of the main characters drove me insane. And the ending was very, I don't know. It left me unfulfilled. And I think that it was supposed to. And so, if that is the case, then it did its job. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Yes, I finished this in like a 24-hour readathon. Not from start to finish, but I just finished it in a 24-hour readathon. I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would. It is my first Hugo, and, you know, since he's my sworn enemy for no particular reason that is any of your business, I wasn't quite sure what I thought I was gonna get into going into this. But I'll tell you what I certainly wasn't expecting, that it's Beauty and the Beast fanfiction. Did you know that? Did you know that? I didn't know that. I didn't know that until after I finished and I read the back. Did I bother reading the back when I bought it? No! Because everyone knows what the Hunchback of Notre Dame is about. I was a child of the late 90s, early 2000s. I grew up watching the movie. I grew up reading Shakespeare and all that kind of crap. I knew what it was about. Did I bother to read the back until I finished it? No, and I caught it live on tape, too, in a video that is upcoming later. Literally where I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. Fantastic writing, though. Hugo is crazy. Crazy about being detailed and articulate. And you know what? I eat it up because I'm a detail-oriented history nerd. So actually the architecture, like all the descriptions of the architecture and the skylines and the horizons and the geography that people I've heard skip a lot of, I ate it up. I was like, I'm eating good pudding at grandma's house. Okay, keep it coming. I loved it. I love every single second of that kind of prose. And it was bingeably readable once I was able to get my gears in my brain turning the way that they should be to really delve into it, and that's just kind of how you had to be with classics. It was so much more funny than I thought it would be. Like, clever humor, and it was also the character work that is really interwoven. There's a lot of setup and world building that happens throughout this that is done well, and it feels like it's not going to pick up pace until about 30-40% in, because that's when you have a good establishment of how all these things are connecting together and can kind of start thinking of where they're going to go. But as someone who loves character work and being nosy and being messy, like in my books, this was right up my alley. Fantastic. I loved all the action. The characters were so fun to follow, and their folly to follow. I highly recommend this as a classic. I wouldn't recommend it as your first classic, but if you're looking for a new classic to read and you are kind of versed in classics, may I recommend this? May I recommend this? The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Yes, I also read this month. I got 2 of my long-awaited classics off my list this month, so I'm feeling very proud and very full of myself. Oscar Wilde, his prose, his writing, and I've said this in a couple of videos now, so I'll try and make it succinct here, but for me, what stands out to me about Oscar Wilde's prose, because this is my first Oscar Wilde, by the way, fun fact. Now I've listened to some of his plays, but this was my first Oscar Wilde. A lot of newness for Chey this month. What I love the most about Oscar Wilde's writing is, and by the way, I'm not going to tell you a summary of this, it's been around since the 1800s, okay? Google it. Hey, actually, don't Google it anymore. We're not supporting Google, but research it. Dude is so pretty that artist friend is like, oh, I must continue to paint portraits of you. And dude gets so vain and influenced by someone else that when he gets this portrait, he makes some kind of magical wish that he's like, oh, that I stay young and beautiful ever, and all my sins and stuff get reflected on the portrait instead of on me. And so he continues to screw up his life and all the lives around him for the sake of his own selfish vanity. And it kind of drives him mad to see it continue to be reflected in the portrait, and yet he still continues to be a disaster. There you go. There's your Cliff Notes. But Oscar Wilde's power in his writing, at least for me, comes from the emotional language, the descriptions of emotion, how he can actually extrapolate on the depths of emotion, not just like, oh, there was a deep, profound sadness. He can make it life-like. He can personify these emotions so well that they become really vivid and tactile, and I have never really quite read emotional language like that, and I'm gonna be comparing apples and oranges here, but in terms of describing emotions as like a tactile thing, the most modern author I can think of that comes to mind is probably Kylie Lee Baker. Am I saying that Kylie Baker is on the same level as Oscar Wilde? No, I'm not, but if you just need an example, that kind of thing. Except Oscar Wilde, like, really extrapolates on it. And there are some witticisms and cynicisms in here that are beautiful and will stay throughout with me, something that I will think about and will love to reread and really pick up on the witty banter and the back and forth that I know was moving too fast for me to get the first time. But it's a really interesting discussion on good and evil, what constitutes good, what constitutes evil, if there is such a thing. Is it within us? Do we choose it? Do we choose, like, the will of free will? Honestly, it's a really big question of free will as well. Are we influenced? Have we always been a certain way? Can we be influenced to be a certain way, or was it always within us? Do we take the accountability of our own actions? If we are being influenced, is it actually a question of our free will, of how we respond to said thing? Or are we just, victims of our nature, victims of our fate? I don't know. The Narrow Road Between Desires. This is a novella of the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss, and really just follows one of the side, but also main characters, Bast, and one of kind of his regular days in the life that turns not so regular. So he is essentially Fae-like, and the children of the village, of the town that our main character of the actual main novels lives in, come to him for deals and secrets and all this kind of stuff. So it follows him going through these deals and really pulling all these pieces together, and then facing an ultimate foe with someone that he never expected to be allied with, and solving problems along the way and causing many more of them. It has illustrations throughout. You're probably not going to see any with me like flip it. There you go. Yeah. It's illustrated throughout. It was a really quick read. I finished this in one sitting. Pretty sure I finished it in one sitting. I love Bast. It was fun to get to actually watch him work and get to see the inner workings of the kind of mischief and chaos that he causes, in a way that feels like it could be on a daily basis, yet it's just totally out there. But somehow it feels like it would be an everyday thing for this kind of character. It was cool to actually get to follow along, like, with him and get to learn more about him and really kind of see him shine without sharing the spotlight of who we're used to sharing the spotlight with. I love this kind of stuff. I eat it up. Y'all know how I feel about filler, and y'all know how I feel about character work, so I loved it. The Art Thief. This is a true non-fiction story about one of the most prolific art thieves in history, and why he started, all the heists that he did, who he did it with, and essentially his downfall, and his current continued downfall. Stefan was his name, is the most prolific art thief of all time. He pulled off more than 200 heists, often in crowded museums in broad daylight. His girlfriend served as accomplice. His collection was worth an estimated $2 billion. And the interesting thing is that they didn't do it to sell. They didn't do it for money. They did it for the aesthetic purposes, that he literally just put all of them in his room and was like, these are mine now. I will take proper care of them. I alone will take proper care of them because I will actually appreciate them. They're meant to be lived, not behind like a glass case. And really just going through the history of how he started, and then going chronologically through the heist, and then how it all like fell apart. I thought this was super fun. I flew through this in about 2 hours. I absolutely ate it up because I love nonfiction. Again, I'm a history nerd, and I love true crime. I like the way that this author went through each heist that was notable, and also shared a lot of first-person resources, because he actually interviewed the thief and did his due diligence. It was fun to get to see the cat and mouse game that was going on both sides of the fence. It was fun to read about and fun to watch come together, and it really shows you that free will is an interesting thing. To say the least. And that you can get away with a lot more by just acting like you're supposed to be there and asserting yourself. They used basic psychological warfare to pull this stuff off, because no one ever thought that these things, because they weren't like the Mona Lisa pieces. They attacked, they ransacked, they looted. That's a fair term. They looted like old churches and old museums and old castles and stuff, particularly because these weren't pieces that were going to raise like immediate alarm and stuff like that. And so from a security perspective, from a pen tester perspective, very interesting. All right, and for the last one that I read this month, The Silent Blade by R.A. Salvatore. Is that how you say his name? I sure hope so. I really enjoyed this. I talked about it a lot in my Bookballin' #1 video, which will be up here. It's one of my latest videos, because this was a library book, so I won't spend too much time on it. But this was my first introduction to this author and this kind of Forbidden Realms world. And I know that there's a whole massive world that accompanies like these main characters and stuff like that. But I just took this as like my kindly introduction to seeing if I wanted to really make the dive into that world. Yes, I ate it up. This and The Thief's Gamble, but this really got me back into my fantasy mood. I love deep fantasy. I love high fantasy. Whatever we're calling it these days, I just love intricate fantasy worlds, and it was so fun to get to follow these characters on these misadventures, on these adventures, and watch them fall apart and come together and really like build this world around. I'm like, oh, I want to know next. Like, I'm learning all this lore from previous like books, from previous media and all that kind of stuff, and it's tied in really well. You really don't feel like you're driven into the deep end. You get shown things and told things like when they're relevant. The world building, the character building, the storylines. I want to know what is going to happen in the next one, especially with Artemis. Artemis, call me. Cheating on Durso Blint? Never. But it got me back into like a real fantasy mood, and that's all that really needs to be said about that. I've got the second book, but I've got the next book, so maybe we'll see it on a future episode of Bookballin'. Alright, y'all ready for the stats? Alright, let's see how I'm gonna suffer this month. Wrath of the Wrap-Up was born when I started keeping meticulous stats of everything that I read. So physical books, digital reads, library loans, all that kind of crap. I take my stats from the month prior and I compare it to the end of this month, the current month's stats. And if I have done worse, if I have raised my unread percentage, or I have hauled more books than I've read, same thing, then I get punished. And it's not too much of a punishment. It's not supposed to be something that's unachievable. It's just something that's supposed to be kind of a focusing challenge. So to refresh your memory, or if you weren't here to tell you, but last month's wrap-up will be up there and down below as well. My punishments included read 4 owned TBR series, have 7 digital reads, make progress in 5 manga series, and read 1 TBR manga. And I am proud to say that I successfully accomplished that. I passed all these punishments by the skin of my teeth. I really was stressing at the end to read 7 digital reads. I mean, I was struggling. I forgot that it was 7 until like the end of the month, and then I plowed through like 4 in one night. I'm not kidding, it was 4 in one night. So for read 4 own TBR series, I read Her Soul for Revenge, I'm counting Blue Exorcist, I read The Silent Blade, and Narrow Road Between Desires. Because Her Soul for Revenge was book 2, Blue Exorcist volume 11, The Silent Blade was book 1, so I'm counting as progress in the series, and Narrow Road Between Desires was 3.5. 7 digital reads. I got 7 because the month prior I had challenged myself to do 5 and did not do it, so I got punished and it got up to 7. So I read Rogue Alien, Kyrix, Belmore, Falcon, Scythe Happens, Small Town Charisma, and Orc. Me Baby One More Time. Progress in 5 manga series. I read in The Boxer, Black Butler, Blue Exorcist, Seraph of the End, and Dragon Ball. And then read 1 TBR manga, I read Blue Exorcist. So I passed with flying colors. Let's see if I get punished again this month. At least I won't get punished by fact of failing a prior punishment. At least I'm safe there. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to pull up last month's stats, and we're going to compare them to this month. So the first one we're going to start with is my All Books tab. My All Books tab is exactly what it sounds like. It is all of my physical books that I own, TBR and read. So as you'll see, at the end of April, I had 535 read, 288 unread, for a percentage of 65 read, 35 generally percent unread. Not too bad. Generally, as long as I stay with like 60 to 80%, I'm pretty happy. Even if it dipped down to like 50-ish, I'd still be happy. I'm not that pressed about it, okay? I do think I'm in trouble with this one, though. Because I went to a couple estate sales and thrift stores, and and library sales, and I got some more books. And so I don't think it's going to be good for me. But let's look. End of May, all books. 545 read, so I read 10. That seems right, which matches up with what I said. I read 10 of my own TBR this month, which goes to show that I do read my own books. I do. Pretty often, I read more than half the books I read in a month. Let's English, Chey, are my own TBR. So I do read it. It just seems like it's never ending. Anyway, 545 read, 292 unread. Oh my god, by the skin of her. I was so sure. Okay, so read percentage is 65.11 and unread is 34.89. Literally, by the skin of my teeth, I am fine. I was so sure that I was gonna get got with this. Okay, maybe it's not as bad as I thought, but I may make it a little too close for comfort. here. I know I'm going to be screwed at the end of this month because this is my birthday month. June is my birthday month, and I know I'm going to haul books for my birthday. I may be a little bit kinder to myself at the end of this month with wrap-ups, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, the next category we're going to be going to is digital reads. So this is all of my digital TBR. All of my Kindle reads, all of the books on my Apple Books, PC, what have you. All the digital crap. At the end of April, I had 32 read and 121 unread. Yeah, do you see why I challenged myself to read 7? And I also divided up into Amazon read and unread and PC read and unread, but for a total read percentage, 20.9% read. And I had a total of 17% read on Amazon and 25% read on PC. Between the last time that I did a wrap up, there was another kind of Stuff Your Kindle Day, or at least there was like an Amazon like kind of equivalent of like a bunch of free books. And so I might be cooked. I might be cooked on this, fam. Not gonna lie. And because I entered in a bunch that I forgot that I had not yet entered, and also the new books. So let's see. Let's see. I don't have a good feeling about it. All right, total read 48. Wow. Oh yeah, because some that I added in were books that I already read. Because sometimes if I read a book like physically, or if I get it from the library, instead of like buying a physical copy, if I liked it but I didn't love it, then I'll get an ebook copy. So some of the new stuff that I did get were books that I have already read. So that does make sense. And plus the 7 that I read. So 48 read, 164 unread. Total books 212. Read percentage 22.6%, unread 77.4%. So we are safe there. And Amazon now has a read percentage of 19%, and PC has a 47% read rate. I'm safe. Thank God I'm safe. Whew. Those were the 2 I was most worried about. Those are the 2 that I was most worried about. So the next category is my library books. My library books are a separate stack of all the 180 something books, 160, whatever that insane number was, that I hauled when my library was having a sale because they were undergoing renovation, and so they were having a bunch of sales to discard a bunch of books. So they're their own monster that I normally tackle in my bookballing video series that I am working on. Currently episode 1 is the only one up, but episode 2 is being filmed as we speak. So look out for that. For the end of April library books, we had 29 read, 133 unread, for a percentage of 17.9, 18% read, 82% unread. Okay, so the end of May library books, we have 30 read and 132 unread. Wow. Progress. That is a percentage of 18.52% read and 81% unread. Yeah, so we're Gucci there. We're Gucci, fam. We're good. And our next one is my manga tracker. This one is a little bit more complicated, but not too much. Not too much for you smarty pants. I separate this by total books and series. So the big numbers, the read and unread that you see to the left, are the actual series, the number of series that I'm reading. And then I have the total books that are within those series tabulated on the secondary, as you can see on the right. So I have 18 series read. That means the series is either completely finished or I'm caught up. I am current in the series if it's ongoing. And I have 21 unread. That means I have not finished or caught up. For a long time, I counted not started against me, which is dumb, stupid. So now, if I have not started a series, even if I plan to, I don't count that against me because it's not really fair. Now, is it? No. Total series read percentage, 46%. Unread percent, 53%. Read books, 222, and unread in those series, 341. Now, here's the interesting thing to pay attention to, right? Unread owned TBR. So books that I actually physically own, not the best way to point that out, Chey, only 5. Only 5. So let's check in May. The numbers of read and unread series did not change. That's not shocking. I didn't finish any series. But as for the read books, we now have 227 read books in those series and unread 336. And again, the thing to pay attention to is that my unread owned TBR went down to 4. Also, my unread unowned TBR went down about a 4 number, which, yeah, makes sense because I progressed in 5 series. So yeah, we're still good there. Good. Now, to our final category, series. Series is like manga, except it's just for regular book series. You'll get the hang of it. You got it. the end of April. Again, counts the same way. The numbers on the left are the total series numbers, and then I have them divided between the series numbers and the actual books within those series. So I have 34 series read or completed or caught up on, and 63 series either not finished or not caught up on. That makes for a read percentage of series for 35% and 65% unread of those series. And the thing to pay attention to down here is, again, the unread owned TBR. I'm not really counting it against me, the unowned TBR, that doesn't really feel quite fair. But the unread owned TBR is 95. So let's go to May. Still the same number of series, 34 read, 63 unread. But if we look at my unread number of books at the top, at the total, it went down to 401. And then if we go down to the most important part, the unread owned TBR went down to 93. Why did it only go down to 93? Hi, editing Chey cutting in here just to tell you that I have solved the issue with 2 seconds of sitting down and critically thinking. It is the fact that I do not have the Silent Blade, main series listed in my series tracker because I wasn't sure that I was going to continue on with the series. And I'm still not entirely sure because it is a big commitment to the whole thing. I'm going to think about it and I'll add it in, but that is why it only went down a few instead of that's why it's missing one. That's why it seems to be missing one. It's because that series is not listed in my series tracker. Mystery solved, Sherlock. All I care about is that it means that I'm safe. So, I do not have to face any wrath. I don't have to face any wrath this month. Sorry to disappoint. Except that I am going to face my own wrath. Since I know ahead of time that I'm going to be hauling books for my birthday, I'm going to give myself a preemptive punishment to try and help myself along. I'm going to challenge myself. My forearm is cramping so bad from doing that for so long. I'm going to challenge myself to read at least 15 of my own TBR this month. I'm going to challenge myself to read 15 of my own TBR, my unread own TBR, and I'm going to challenge myself to, again, progress in four series. It can be owned or unowned. I'm gonna give myself leeway on that, but actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna say progress in 6 series. That way it can be either owned or unowned. Progress in 6 series, read at least 15 of my own TBR, and I want to read 5 digital reads. So let me say that. Okay. That's going to be it for me. Thank y'all so much for watching. If you like what you saw, make sure you hit the like button. If you want to stick around to see what chaos comes of me giving myself punishments and seeing if I actually live up to them or if I don't, hit the subscribe button down below. I have plenty of vlogs and challenges and tidbits on this channel that will interest you. So stick around, see what happens. And thank you everybody so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you ain't heard from anyone else today, I love you. Love and peace. Bye!